Hello, and welcome to this evening's beer discussion. So, it's not really a review. Why? Because the beer that we were drinking, I've already reviewed it twice. Once in the very early days of my channel in 2015, and another time, actually, maybe even a little earlier than that. It might have been like closer to 2014 than 2015. What? I don't know. I'm going to see here. Do I still have that window open? No, I closed the window. But yeah, and again about 4 years ago, and I've had it maybe about two or three times. I didn't go on camera, and this is one of my favorite beers, Celebrator Doppelbock. It's one of the ones I picked up from Bottleheads because it was for sale, and I've been having trouble finding it. So when I saw it, it's like automatic go and pick up, and it's not super expensive, $7 for a bottle. I mean, with inflation, that's pretty reasonable, honestly. So yeah, let's go and read the back here. Dark, malty, and rich. Eininger, at the foot of the Bavarian Alps, is one of the world's most respected breweries. Family owned and operated since 1878. Okay. Yeah, 6.7 ABV. Not sure when this was made, but, it's one of those ones that can sit for a bit and not lose too much. So yeah, let's go and pour this one out. Mm. Look at that dark richness. Very little light gets through, very dark ruby color, amber ruby, thick light brown head. Delightfully malty, dark fruit, stone fruit, touches of honey, very light herbaceousness. Yeah, onto the palate. There's a reason why this is one of my favorites. Anyways, so what are we talking about tonight? One of my favorites, but I think it's one of those ones where, why does it want to do this all the time? I don't know. It's one of my favorites, but it's definitely one of those ones that, it's a one and done. Um, it's not a sessionable beer, both strength-wise and flavor-wise. Hmm. Hmm. Must be pretty fresh. A bit of hot presence there in the finish. Just a light resininess in that finish there. Of course, still a malt show. Still dark, rich, kind of chocolatey. Anyways, so as I mentioned in the previous review, talking about the Collider Doppelbock style ale, I sort of mentioned, 9.0, that's kind of heavier than should be the Doppelbock style. And I kind of received a comment saying, yeah, from Japanese Craft Beer Reviews, which is a channel I follow. He also kind of watches my videos too. He commented and said, yeah, that does seem kind of high. I wonder why they did that. And I explained that Hanakoa Brewing Company basically has a very accelerated release cycle. They release a new beer like every other week, sometimes even more than that, sometimes even like once a week. And oddly enough, it all goes to the canning line too. It's not just on tap. They definitely um, make each batch like large enough so that some of it can be canned and distributed. And it's fairly narrow distribution. I mean, I've only ever seen them at Tamura's and Bottleheads, I'm sure they're at other like local craft alcohol stores, but never like the grocery stores. And that kind of got me thinking, since Hanakoa is one of the most successful local craft breweries in Hawaii, and there is quite a bit of contraction now going on in the Hawaii craft beer scene, that it kind of behooves me to go and sort of explain, well, what strategies are the breweries using to survive this sort of stagnation of growth and contraction of sales. You know, um, with the economy being what it is, people just don't have as much time and money to go and drink anymore. And also, too, there's a growing recognition that alcohol isn't best for your health. And even myself, since I'm kind of pushing 50, and I don't exactly have the best lifestyle habits overall. I mean, beer isn't my only vice, and I don't have very many virtues when it comes to health. So I've been kind of cutting back. So basically, cutting back to maybe about 4 beers a week cumulatively. Usually have about one or two per night when I do drink, and I don't drink every night. And so I'm not buying as much beer as I used to, long story short. So what is it that the brewers here in Hawaii are doing? And I think it might be the same nationwide, but the thing is, I only really have the experience here in Hawaii and seeing how they operate in Hawaii. These small, low-level craft breweries, because I don't travel at all, so I don't know what's going on in Oregon or California or in Alabama or any other place in the United States right now in regards to small craft breweries. And Hanakoa kind of hits on one of the strategies, and that is a very, very active release schedule. And they're just constantly pushing beers out the door. And sort of a caveat to this is that you really have to be a good brewer in order to do this so that you're not pushing out crap. So say like that Collider really wasn't to style, but it wasn't awful or blah. And honestly, I don't drink all of the Hanakoa line. I say about 50% of what they put out are IPAs, and um, honestly, I don't think it's like I'm tired of IPAs. Maybe it's more I'm jaded about IPAs, but it's like most IPAs are just kind of meh for me now, except for the big craft boys who do it really, really well, like Sierra Nevada. They always are able to make an interesting spin on you know their mainline IPAs. I'm not talking about like their gas station IPAs, which is like their little big little or little big thing line. That's basically Sierra Nevada's answer to the Voodoo Ranger line. I gas station IPAs, gentlemen's 40 ounces. So I like to call them basically beer to get you hammered. So like I don't really review those anymore because I kind of figured out what they were about. But like Springfest, any other sort of thing in the classic Sierra Nevada sort of branding style, yeah, definitely still go out and review those. But I digress. Basically, an active production schedule is something that keeps people returning. Keeps me returning because they put out so many beers that there are beers for me to review and want to review, you know, which is a lot harder for me to justify returning to a brewery unless they have a beer that I absolutely love, you know, but they'd only put out like one seasonal for every season. So they put out one beer in summer, one beer in winter, one beer in spring, and one beer in autumn, you know, and you can kind of guess those styles there. Um, so that's a way to go and drive sales. Again, with the caveat that you kind of have to be good at it, and with also the caveat that sometimes you're not going to have enough time to go and tweak the recipes enough. I'm pretty sure that the head brewer at Hanakoa could make a Doppelbock that is 100% to style and probably a lot better than Collider was. But when you have such an accelerated release schedule, you just don't have the time to go and tweak and experiment. You just got to get it out the door. And there are other local craft breweries that kind of follow this. I don't review them as much because they tend to focus more on in-house sales and only canning like their regular line. So that would be like Beer Lab. Beer Lab pushes out beers constantly too, but well, actually, I do kind of live near their. I do kind of live near one of their tap rooms because they got like two or three tap rooms. But the thing is, their tap. It's in Manoa. There's absolutely no parking in Manoa, even though it's like less than 10 minutes away from me by car. So I don't visit their tap room, sadly. But yeah, they push out a lot of beers. Tend to be a lot more experimental than Hanakoa too, in regards to what they do. Like I remember their Biko Brown Ale. Oh, that was absolutely wonderful. It's kind of sad that that was a one-off for me, you know. Um, in regards to a lot of these beers, push out constantly new beers. You're not going to be returning to them all that much. Other way of kind of maintaining business here in Hawaii is have very, very solid distribution. So that's Maui Brewing Company strategy. They're everywhere. They are probably the largest local craft brewer, and they definitely make a strong effort to be for sale everywhere that it is possibly able to be for sale in Hawaii. So they are the local craft beer at like regular restaurants. They're the handle there, you know, along with Kona Brewing, but Kona Brewing's kind of um, I don't know. Are this? They're not part of AB InBev anymore, but they are part of another larger corporation. Last I heard, but yeah, Maui Brewing and Kona Brewing are the two bigs, and they're everywhere, so they have solid distribution. And that kind of goes for all the craft beer companies are able to consistently get out things to say like grocery stores, which are a major distribution point here in this state for alcohol. You know, that's where the vast majority of people buy their beer is like supermarket or Costco. And if you're not there, you're not meeting the average consumer who is craft beer curious. Oh my god, that sounds horrible. Craft beer curious. You know, so having really good distribution channels, and of course that kind of comes when you're big. Probably the easiest way to kind of persist here in Hawaii is to be attached to a very, very good restaurant. Particularly a restaurant in an area that is not very well served either by breweries or restaurants, and that is Big Island Brew House's strategy. They've been around for I wouldn't say forever, since about the mid early to mid 2000s, so they're kind of old at this point by the Hawaii craft beer scene standards. But they're out in the middle of Waimea on the Big Island, so there's no other craft brewer around them. They're out in what's literally cow country, and they have this excellent little Mexican restaurant attached to it that's like, even if you're not a drinker of alcohol, you would, if you're in the north side of the Big Island, you would go there just to go and try one of their fish tacos. Add to that that they have, like, while they don't really release new beers on a very regular schedule, what they do have, like they have like a fairly large, they have a larger selection of regulars on tap there. But what they do have is that everything they have is pretty much excellent. So they're not really putting out much of what's new, but whatever you get there, beer wise, is going to be good. And they're small. They kind of keep small, and they manage small. So they have their restaurant. They also do a canning line, but they only can about three of their beers, and unfortunately, the one that I find like one of the most sublime beers possible. It's an imperial red ale with like sea salt, and it's just an amazing beer. It's almost like I almost put it. It's almost like you have a gourmet, handmade waffle cone ice cream. Only it's like the beer experience of that, and I'm not sure how better to go and convey it. But yeah, it's one of those beers that has stuck with me despite having it only once in my life. It's that good. So yeah, have really damn good beers, you know, and produce as much as you can sell without having to deal with like shelf turds or bad distribution. So always make sure that you're not overproducing. And I think overproduction is what did in a lot of the craft beer industry in the United States in general. It's just they extended too much and couldn't pull it back in. Small is sometimes better. Works for Big Island Brewhouse. So, looking at the failures, yeah, honestly, stagnant lines, not putting out any new beers for years on end. Um, you know, that's what kind of did, crap. So one in Hilo, it's not, they changed their name multiple times and they're currently looking for like a new owner. They were one of the earliest like craft beer companies, late 90s, early 2000s. I forget their name. I reviewed more than a few of their beers. They had a awesome brown ale, um, Hoppa brown ale. Uh, but most of their other stuff in their line was either okay to downright horrible. Um, but I think what really did them in was a combination of overproduction. You would see this a massive amount of beers on the shelf and it wouldn't move. And then they would disappear for months on end, and then another massive amount would appear and would basically go stale. So, you know, making sure your distribution is well distributed. So they're gone now. And for other craft brewers, it's like, well, I could never find their beer. It's like I knew they existed, but I would have to go to them to get it. And it's like I'm sorry. As much as I love craft beer, I'm not going to drive to Waikiki or, you know, Manoa to go and fill a growler up. I'm sorry. If you're going to pursue that kind of strategy, make sure you're someplace that has ample parking. Um, that's this is not New York City. This is not Chicago. People drive here. I'm not going to go and get an Uber or catch bus to buy beer. Just what it is. It's kind of sad because I know there were some good beer companies that I never really got to try once Three Peaks closed down. Three Peaks was awesome because, like I said, they did the work. They did growler fills for everyone else. I could just stay in Kailua and try a whole bunch of different beers, and I still am sad for the day they closed down. But it just, as a business, um, you know, it was like they just they were just a little bit too small scale, and so they kind of slipped through the cracks. And since I lived in Kailua, it wasn't the commute thing wasn't a big thing for me. But yeah, they kind of suffered from the parking problem. It just didn't matter for me because it was like, well, yeah, I can kind of walk there. So when I lived in Kailua, I don't live in Kailua anymore. Um, Other companies, you know, suffer from reputational. Either things happen where their canning line, they have bad production or something like that, or for politics. Honestly, if you're a brewer, don't let your politics be known. It never goes well. And I don't care what side of the equation you go. Once you start making that stuff public, you're just asking for trouble. And what does it have to do with beer anyway? It's not to say don't care about politics. It's like don't take it to your brewery business. It has no place there. Um, and it's completely voluntary to do something like that too. And I know one. I'm going to be remain silent on one local brewer um, who has that issue now because he. And the thing is, he hasn't been very loud about it, but I mean, yeah, he's conservative in a deeply blue state, and it's like, well, if you're like that, then keep your mouth quiet. I still buy from him because I really do. I don't care about politics enough to go and have it determine like my purchasing things. It's not like a beer brewer is has any real effect on the body politic of the nation. So it's like, you know what? I'm gonna drink your beer. If I disagree with you, I'm gonna say I disagree, and if you're not gonna shove your views down my throat, then I'm gonna continue to be a happy customer. But I think I'm kind of the minority in that sense. So yeah, don't talk politics. Period. What else? I don't know. This beer's hitting me kind of hard, but I think I really covered the part where it's like, well, how do you succeed? Maybe not so well the like things that will make you fail, but I think the things that will make you fail are things that except for the politics things, are things that will make you fail in any business at any time. You know, yeah. So that's sort of like an analysis of how to succeed in the challenging American craft beer industry as focused on in the state of Hawaii, as it were. I know I don't have um, much local viewers who can, really, but if you want to like disagree, go right ahead. Honestly, I won't. I'm kind of refining my opinion here. So if you kind of disagree with me, is like about like survival strategies or signs of failure, please in the comments tell me. This is more discussion than me pounding the lectern, as it were. And yeah, my God, it's almost 30, it's 25 minutes in. It's time for me to wrap this one up. Anyways, I think this was fairly fruitful discussion. bit better than most of the ones I've had. So yeah, that's your sort of beer discussion for tonight. And I'll see you on the flip side. Or Monday, I guess. Monday night. Cheers.